Welcome to the rollout. I am Linsay Rousseau.
And I'm Genevieve Marie. Hello and welcome.
Hey, we are so excited about today's guest. If you have not checked out his YouTube channel, you need to go do that right after you watch this. He is John Lombardi from Tabletop WitchCRAFT.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Thank you. Yeah, great. Thanks for being here. Before we dive in, let's subscribe to YouTube, subscribe to us, and then do some other things. Check out Culture Slate on Patreon, check out cultureslate.com on their website to follow all the other amazing content that they are putting out. And of course, like, subscribe, and click that notification bell. So John, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh boy. So I live in Maine and I started my YouTube channel about a year and a half ago. I've been crafting for a long time. Started when I was about 10. My love of tabletop gaming and board games, and even like the Lone Wolf series books kind of got me through my childhood. And so I just started crafting and lived in New York for a while, moved to Maine. There's where I went to high school and college. And then I kind of picked back up into the whole gaming community when I got, I guess I kind of pulled my friends into gaming and kind of begged them to play with me a little bit.
As you do. Coercion.
Yeah.
Was it coercion or were you like, I'll make you dinner or cookies?
It was a little of both.
Was it the carrot or the stick?
I will buy beer.
No, they brought the beer, but I had a whole big spread of food out on the table, and I made a whole big medieval theme the first time we played. And it was actually a Hero Quest night. So we played Hero Quest, and we might have, maybe put something on a character, just saying. And it got everybody going. We had a big spread of food, and they liked it. And I said, well, why don't we jump into, something a little bit more advanced? And so I started crafting. My buddies that played with me, I got 4 of them. One of them was my brother. And, they're a little, their imagination needed a little kick, So my brother said, why don't you craft everything for the game? And literally I was like, I was always loved like arts and crafts and painting and stuff like that. So I said, yeah, why not? And the first thing I crafted was a windmill, and I had just started crafting it. And this is the way like the dice rolls, right? It was literally the first day, and my brother was over, and he said, why don't you film this, throw it on YouTube and see what happens? And I was like, yeah, okay. How hard can it be? Famous last words.
I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
I know I've said that so many times.
Right. So I did it, and I threw it on YouTube, and it did pretty well, the first video, and started getting a pretty decent following. And it was about 3 or 4 months into the channel. I had maybe about 700 subscribers, and I put out, I don't know if you can see it in the background. You can see a little piece of it right there, my castle.
Oh yeah.
And I had put that video out, and it was like, everybody went nuts, and the channel went from like 700 to like 5,000 subscribers in a couple of days. Nice. So I was like, all right, we got something. And here I am, a year and a half later, still crafting and meeting awesome people, which I'm very grateful for.
Also, props to you for going for windmill for the first build.
Right? Yeah. As opposed to like square house or something.
Yeah, I know. Who knows? Whatever.
Windmill. All right, cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, in your YouTube channel, just even going down the playlist, there's so many mind-blowing things to click on. Like the one that just sold me, and I was like, this is magic. Like, no, this isn't just talent, this is literal magic, is the Diagon Alley bookshelf book holders. Like, that blew my mind. Where did you get the idea to make a Diagon Alley bookshelf? Because it's a book nook. It's not even like book ends. It's like literally you just made that for the fun of it, just because you thought it was gonna look cool. Tell me about that.
All right, well, that's not my build.
Oh no.
No.
It isn't.
So but I did do a book nook based on the Frostwind Dale on D&D.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's the one. Maybe you're thinking of that one. You can check that out afterwards. But I don't know. I just kind of get these ideas and do a little research on them, and then just kind of go for it. They kind of snowball. And I like to incorporate, a lot of different companies and smaller people in the community to kind of help with the build a little bit. So like I needed some miniatures for that. And I was like searching for the really, if you look at the Frostwindale book, there's a really cool Yeti in that and an encounter.
Right. Yeah.
And it was Barthel's Marvels that had the Yeti that I wanted. So I contacted them and they wanted to jump on board. So they provided, the miniatures and the Yeti for that. And then I talked to Woodland Scenics and they provided all of the, the liquid, the ice and the ice effects and the snow.
Awesome.
So just kind of working with everybody is, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I like to bring everybody together and see what happens at the end.
I love that it's such a collaborative, because it seems like, because we've had a couple different, builders on our show before, Plus One Crafting, Got DM, people like that. And it just seems like a really great community, the crafting community, and especially like the YouTube crafting community. Like you all kind of seem to know each other. And I mean, not all of you, but
It's a big community, but it's small at the same time.
Yeah.
So the thing that's cool about, not being afraid to reach out and talk to people, going back to the book nook, Scott Ismail from Paladin Woodworking, really amazing woodworker. He can do some really cool stuff. And I knew for that book nook that I wanted to I'm kind of known for LEDs and magnets and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I wanted to light up the book nook, but I didn't want to make it out of cardboard. So he made this really awesome walnut enclosure for it and we lit the whole thing up. So it's cool to, be like, I want to do this and I know somebody that can help me out. Contact them and they get excited and you just kind of snowball from there,
That is
right.
so
And
cool.
that was one of the things that actually like really drew me to the stuff that you make is the LEDs and the special effects and stuff
The
added.
smoke, you have a whole smoke building playlist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like the sewer tiles as well. Like just those are so cool. And what made you think like to go that extra level? Did you have to build up to that? Were you like, all right, I'm going to build my windmill first, which already is like up here.
Setting the bar up here.
Operating
Yeah.
at a high caliber of crafting. What made you be like, all right, now I want to add LEDs. I want to add smoke. I want to do, X, Y, and Z to all this stuff to make it just have that extra pop.
So I guess it's one of those things when you sit back and look at a build. I've got in one of my videos, I think it was in my Q&A video, I showed a picture of one of my first builds and it was this little tiny 3x3 house and it had a little lantern on it and it was lit up and it's really cool. It's a good way to practice like OSL lighting, for miniatures or for terrain or whatever. But I was just like, this stuff would be so cool to actually have a flickering light on the table. And it's amazing like how much like when you have people sitting around the table and they see that kind of stuff, it's so neat, So
Right.
I started doing a little research online and looking for ways to light these crafts up. And, okay, so I'm a civil engineer. That's what I do during the day. And I had some electrical training when I was in college and I hated it. So I started doing some research. I'm like, man, these are really complicated ways of lighting everything up. And I said, why not just take like a little tiny battery and touch it to the contacts? And that's what started my torch video, which that really did well. And everybody loved it. So I said, well, maybe there's something to do with, LEDs. And that kind of snowballed because Terraintronics, another YouTube channel, David over there is very talented and he loves electronics. That's what he does for work. And he's actually been really amping up my game and pushing me to, incorporate more and more. But I told him, I said, I don't want to scare anybody away because it can be intimidating, running wires and soldering and stuff. So I said, as long as we do a little at a time, it can be really exciting and really open up a lot of doors for people when they're crafting. So that's what we've been doing. I actually have a Cyberpunk build that I'm working on. And that's got a lot of, I saw your background. It's got a lot of really cool features to it. I don't want to give anything away, but it's going to be really neat. It's going to be really neat.
So I'm assuming you've been artistic most of your life. Like, so I mean, maybe explain like, what were some of the things you did when you were younger? And, obviously trying to be an artist is really hard, but to then take it into the tabletop gaming realm is even more niche. So like kind of explain that journey of like, from, I don't know, chalk crayon drawings as a kid, like now these epic magnetic LED smoke. I mean, your magnetic walls and doors too. Well, like that's another thing, but like, how did that come about?
So when I was younger, I loved to draw. I have a portfolio of like every Disney character you can imagine. And I drew them all. And it's so cool to be able to go back and check that out. You know, I was doing this stuff when I was 8, 9 years old. And I just always loved to draw whatever I could get my hands on. And again, I lived in Staten Island when I grew up. So there wasn't a lot of outdoor activities you could do as a little kid, you know. But right around the corner was this really cool comic book store. So whenever I could like sneak out from my house, I hope my parents don't watch this. I would always go over there, go down the street and blow some money on comic books and little miniatures. So I'd buy those and paint them. Or I'd redraw like comic book covers and the artwork. And that's what really got me going with drawing. And I really always wanted to experience, you know, all different types of media, oil painting, pastels, you know, color pencils, watercolor, like little etch work that you can do on those black sheets. You ever see those? Wood burning. Yeah. So I just, you know, my whole life, I've always tried to experiment with a lot of different things, right? Just to see what you're good at. And if you're not good at it, throw it out and move on, you know? Yeah. So yeah, just creating was always a fun thing for me. And, you know, a few years ago, I built a brick oven in my backyard. I had never cut a brick in my life. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to build a brick oven. So I built this huge brick oven. You can see it in my Instagram if you check it out. Yeah. And yeah, it's just like, why not? You know, give it a shot.
It is. Sorry, I'm just like enamored with your YouTube right now. But
no.
But I mean, yeah, go ahead, Jen.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say that I see that you also go in for the 3D printing too. I was actually watching your scatter terrain video yesterday, and then I saw all the 3D printing and stuff, and I was like, oh, that's so awesome. I have one sitting right over there on my table that I have not figured out yet.
I hear that a lot from a lot of people. Is it a resin printer?
This one is, it's not a resin printer. It's an Ender, I don't remember the number. It was actually I'm not going to say a cast off. It was a gift from a friend. So it's a used one, from a friend who actually, does 3D printing for toy manufacturing. Yeah. But it was a birthday gift. And, I'm just like trying to figure out which slicer I want to get and download that. It's more so me being lazy and not figuring it out. But I wanted to ask about the 3D printing element. And did that come in because of what, you know, your job, or were you just like, I want a 3D printer and we're going to figure this out? Or like, tell us a little bit about how that came about.
Yeah. So if you look at like my earlier builds, everything is, you know, the household items and foam. Right. That's how a lot of people start. And for me, it was like, you know, I didn't really want to get into 3D printing because it was just so much going on, especially with the channel. And I'll tell you, you know, I'm 41 and trying to learn Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and all this stuff and all the software that goes along with it was like, my brain was going to explode.
It's a fun journey.
It is.
Yeah, it is. You know, it forces you to learn quick, but
it does.
3D printing, I'm like, you know, at some point I'll get into it. But the really neat thing about having a YouTube channel and, you know, producing the best content that you have and people kind of recognizing that is companies start to reach out to you to kind of show off their stuff. So Anycubic was nice enough to send me the printer and the wash and cure station, you know, with a few stipulations. I get to keep it if I do some videos. And that was fine because the way I look at it, when you craft, doesn't matter if you're using Pringles cans and, you know, paper plates to make shingles, or if you're printing off elements like I did in that scatter terrain video for Loot Studios with a 3D printer. You know, it's all part of the craft. And before I started in with that, I started casting with Hearst Arts. And I actually have like an entire tray of stuff I casted last night, dropping some of it for the Cyberpunk build. Nice. So I was like, yeah. So I was like, this stuff is great. I'm going to use this stuff. And then the 3D printer came along, but you know, I don't want to not use the Hearst Arts and cast because that's a fun element too. So it's I think it's whatever people like to use and craft with, go for it. Cause you do get some people that say, well, now you're not crafting. Now you're just using kit bashing or whatever. But you know,
there's a lot that goes into 3D printing. Well, from start to finish, that it is an art.
Well, and experimenting and finding the right tool for what it is you're trying to build. Like maybe this build will be better served with casting, and maybe this one's better served with 3D printing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, I mean, of all the absolutely amazing, epic things that you have done, is there any particular build that you just like is your favorite, or, you know, something about it was just like, I'm so proud of this build, or, you know, maybe you've had to figure something out when you made it?
Yeah. So there's a couple that come to mind. And it's funny because as I make things, it's like, oh, this is my favorite. Oh, this is my favorite. Right. But when I really think back, there's like 2 or 3 that I'm really proud of, because it took a lot of figuring out. Right.
Yeah.
So the first one I'd have to say the number one is that one right there, the haunted house.
So cool.
So yeah, a lot of work went into that, a lot of design, because I designed all these on the computer first. That way, because I sell the plans that people can download and follow along with my videos. And, just trying to figure this stuff out so that when somebody buys it and actually like follows along, they're not like, hey, those plans are horrible, It's tough. But there was a lot of collaboration done with that, with Shifting Lands and Noble Knight Games and a couple other people. And just the way it came together, I'm really proud of it. Second, I guess, would probably be the diorama I did with the fireball. Have you guys seen that one?
Yes. Oh my gosh. That one is so cool. Yeah. Double. And it doubles as a, yeah,
it's like scatter terrain, right? Tiger Skull RPG made some miniatures for me for that, custom for the build. And I didn't really know what they were going to look like, the people that were getting like blown up by the fireball. And it just kind of like worked out awesome. The lighting on the fireball came out nice. So that was cool. And just recently, the one with Terraintronics, that interactive trap where you can move the reed switches around and it like sets traps off and lights. That was kind of cool too. But I mean, I love them all. I'm appreciative of all the stuff that people have helped with and donated and stuff like that. So I like them all.
So what made you decide to go from essentially taking what was a hobby into wanting to show other people how to do this, and building this really successful YouTube channel, which, is a job in and of itself? Like, how did you decide to make that transition?
When I first started like the windmill, I didn't know exactly where the channel was going to go. And I just started crafting and I put it on YouTube and it started doing really well. And I got a lot of really good feedback from it. And I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I want to see like what's going to come of it. So I promised myself for the first year on the channel, I didn't care what it took. I was going to put a video out a week and, kind of listen to the comments, try to improve myself. It's the internet. It's the world. I had a lot of people telling me how to improve. And I appreciate it. It really did help me with my my speech and inflection and talking and stuff like that, and gave me ideas with crafts. So I just kind of went with that, and people started reaching out to me saying, I'm it was right when COVID kind of hit. It was back in March, and then February rolled around, and people were like, your channel's really helping me get through this. It's keeping my mind off of things, and it was really a positive thing. It was really cool to hear that aspect of it. And that really helped drive me and push me to kind of keep creating and not creating the same thing over and over, come up with new stuff to keep people entertained and busy, and that just kind of kept going from there.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, the people who
are you not entertained? Your Coliseum that is great. Did you use that in a game, or was that just kind of like a little passion, like I want to make a Coliseum?
Yeah, so I wanted to make the Coliseum, but I have the campaign that I'm playing with my buddies, which I don't know if we're ever going to get to it. It's so hard to get everybody together. Had a Coliseum in it, and this was back in March when COVID kind of first hit, and I was sent home from work. Everybody was for like a little over a month. And I said, geez, no better time than now to do this thing. I had a whole month. And that's what it took. It took me a month to make that.
Oh gosh.
Wow.
Yeah.
I really loved how you took the PVC pipe and then had the little like indentations on top of it. And then
the roller.
Yeah, the roller. Yeah. That is just so, where did you get the idea for the roller? That is such a awesome, like, simple thing that you can do. I love these like simple little tools and tricks. Like, I think that's what really just like grabs people, and they like, I need to know more about these like simple little things that are just make mind-blowing, you know, differences on builds.
So Gerard Boom at Shifting Lands, he sells rollers, these guys right here. And they're for, you know, really good for like clay and stuff like that. Might be hard to see. Yeah. But they're, you know, they're good for foam too. And he actually makes ones that are just for foam. And I'm like, well, you know what? I can make some of these myself. I have a video on how to actually make these out of a PVC pipe. And I was like, well, if you can, you know, remove the PVC to put indentation on it, why not add something to it to texture? And that's just kind of how it went through.
Yeah.
I actually have a little tool here too. Where is it? This is my favorite. I use this thing all the time. It's just a little pencil with some green stuff on it. And I roll it in sand. And this is perfect for texturing like every little nook and cranny or tearing away at foam. If I don't have this, it's probably in every video of mine. So, yeah.
Again, simple hacks.
The wonder tool. Would you say that that is like what is your most used tool besides obviously your big thinky brain?
Yeah.
What is the one thing that you're like, I cannot live without this one thing? Like if you had to build terrain on a desert island, what's the tool that you're like, give me that one?
Okay, so we're taking away the media, right? Like foam. Let's see. I'd need a knife, an Olfa knife, probably this guy right here, and my clay sculpting tools. Those three things, and I'm good to go.
You're good to go.
Yeah, and glue. I need glue, or maybe I could find sap from a tree. I don't know.
That would be interesting. We'll just we'll have like, you know, Survivor Tabletop Build edition, and we just throw you in the woods, and like you have to use what's on the land to build your builds.
That's an idea.
So there we go.
I'm gonna write that down.
Right. We see it on television in a month.
Yeah, my kids watch that stuff all the time. Those like Survivor, you know, couple day challenge, eat what you catch and cook, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So what is your inspiration for when you decide to build something? I mean, it sounds like some of it's like people come to you and ask, hey, can you do this? And, you know, some of it is, I guess, for campaigns that you're playing with. But, you know, how do you decide what the next project is that you're going to work on?
So like the whole first year of my channel, pretty much, nobody really knew this until like a couple weeks ago. It was all stuff I needed for my campaign. So I'm like, I'm just gonna make what I need. But you know, when COVID hit and everybody stopped playing, I'm like, well, you know, let me branch out a little bit here. So I actually have, again, my whole engineering side, an Excel sheet with like 100 different video ideas, and they're all categorized. And I look at, you know, well, what did I just do? Or what did I do the past month? And I try and pick from a different category that's completely different, right? That way, kind of keep people on their toes a little bit.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. So obviously you don't want to spoil anything about Cyberpunk, but what is an idea or a couple ideas of things that you haven't built yet that you just are like, I really want to figure out how to do that, or I really want to do that?
I've got some ideas for some larger dioramas that include large amounts of resin that I haven't really worked with yet, which would involve literally sculpting large creatures for the build. Again, something I haven't done. And that's one of the things that adds a lot of like excitement, anticipation to builds like that, because I have no idea. It's, you know, a lot of people think like, oh, this person knows how to do this because they have a YouTube channel. It's not really that way all the time. You know, I don't know. I've never done some of this stuff, and I'm just kind of going for it and keeping my fingers crossed that everyone's gonna be happy with it when it comes out.
Right. But confidently.
Yeah. You know, and if you mess up, you just kind of tell people what's going on, because, you know, I'm not really into weekly content anymore. If I can do it, I will. Yeah. I'm more of a bi-weekly content. And it has a lot of pressure when, you know, you're making something, especially if it's weekly, and you screw up day 3, it's like, well, now what do I do? You know what I mean? So I want to try and keep the channel fun, not just for the viewers, but for myself, because that's really what's going to keep it going, you know?
Right. Because once it starts to become a burden, then you lose, you know, the reason why you started it in the first place.
Yeah, it got tough for a while, you know, maybe 6 months or so ago, because again, I was running out of vacation time at work, and, you know, every minute I had, I was working on the channel, trying to, you know, pump videos out. And there are some videos that I put out that I was like, man, I would love to have done this, but I don't have time. And when I sat back and looked at it, I'm like, I'm not going to keep doing that. You know, I want to be happy, completely happy, you know, with a build when I'm done with it. So that's when I made the decision. I'll put the videos out when they're ready and done the way I like, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are some, you know, for people who are interested in, you know, getting into crafting, and obviously your site is a great site to go to, you know, start, you know, going along and trying to do some of the things that you've done. But what are some suggestions you have for people who are interested in getting into, you know, crafting work?
Yeah. Start small, really. Just get a few little tools, because you really can get lost in the equipment, you know? You know, I would say just get some stuff. And I like quality tools and equipment too. You know, you can go out there if you can afford it to get the little bit better stuff. And to me, it just makes me happier when I'm working with something. But, you know, like I said earlier, a knife, some clay sculpting tools, I think are very important, because they're so fine tipped. You can do a lot of different things with them.
Yeah.
You know, maybe get like a 24 pack of craft paint, stuff like that. And go to a bunch of channels, not just mine, and surf them and find some small crafts that you think are cool and build it. And I tell everybody this, it doesn't matter if you're completely happy with the build when you're done. You can look at it and hate it, as long as you learn something from it, right? If you're like, well, I didn't like the way this turned out because of this, then you know not to do it next time. And the craft was a success, right?
Right.
So yeah, just pick something easy and just kind of slowly work from there.
Yeah, go from there.
Maybe don't start with a windmill.
Yeah, you know, you can try. Maybe the Coliseum, who knows?
Yeah, right. Exactly. So a lot of your crafts, like your crafting, a lot of the magic, like for me, is the paint job. Like that is where like it really sells. And I was just wondering, like, what is your favorite type, like what is your favorite medium to paint with? Like, do you prefer dry brushing? Do you prefer to have, you know, like a wet palette? Like, do you go in sometimes? Do you have a whatchamacallit, an airbrush machine? Like, because it really that just
pops.
really sells. It pops. It's some of the best painting that I've seen personally. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah. So the thing with painting, and a lot of people kind of, you know, don't think of it this way. When you're layering something, I tell everybody in the Coven, which is my Patreon, everything is in layers, right? So the little build back here, the alchemy shop, I absolutely love the way the paint job came out on that. And what happens is a lot of people say, okay, I'm painting a stone building. What color is a stone? It's gray. So you paint it gray and you dry brush it, you know, a lighter tan or whatever, put a wash on it and you're done. Or maybe you go back and dry brush it again. I find that really taking your time with the paint job on it and going back a couple of times, right? So do that process once and then realize that stone isn't the same all the way around a house. Maybe the backside might be damp and you might have moss and stuff growing up the house or black mold, right? So you add an extra wash, you know, and just keep layering and layering. Paint one house 2 or 3 times. Just keep layering it up. The same goes for flocking. When you're adding moss to a building, don't just use green, then tan, different coarse and fine flocking. It's all those different layers that really attract people to something. And it really is what makes it impressive, right?
So I imagine you do a lot of research when you start coming up with things, because you're like, oh, what color is this brick or, you know, this rock? Let me go look at things.
Right. So, you know, a lot of times you don't think too. So for the alchemy shop, I was painting yellow and blue on there in areas for the stone. And if you go out in nature, you look, there's stones like that. And it's really makes it look kind of interesting when you have something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Changing things up.
Yeah, it's absolutely. I just love it. And then also you have so many different like textures and, you know, colors and things that just meld between each build that really just elevates them. Like the treasure chest and the gold piles, those are so cute. I just want to have a few of them to dot around my house. Obviously, like, you're into designing, like, it's, you know, it's your job to think about, you know, different designs. How much does texture really play into what you decide like is good for a build, like especially when you're doing something like the sewer tiles or the treasure?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important. So this goes back to me being able to spend the time that I want on the crafts that I'm making. So an example, like the alchemy shop, if you look at the build that I put out this past week, it was destructible terrain, right? It was this tower. And, you know, I liked the way it looked. The paint job was okay. It was an earlier build on the channel, but I would have done a lot of things different right now. And so it kind of killed me to have to repaint it the same way. But I don't have time, or I didn't have time in the past to individually cut out every brick for that tower. It would have taken forever. But now that I have the time, the alchemy shop, I absolutely love that because I cut out each individual brick. And talk about texture. It looks so cool to actually have that look as opposed to just using a roller, which is nice. It's good on really big things. But if you have the time to individually cut, you know, planks of wood out or stones, it adds so much more to a build.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think that actually brings me to sorry, my cat's in my lap right now. You can't see him, but he just jumped up there. I just made a surprise face that everybody's probably like, what happened? And of course he's not going to come into frame. Here's his tail. That brings me into something that is always like, it's especially talked about here a lot in Los Angeles, like between people who are hobbyists and then people who like make like builds and miniatures and stuff for like TV and film. Like TV and film, a lot of that stuff, because it has to be done in a timely manner, because they're, you know, they have strict deadlines on that kind of stuff. They have to kind of learn like shorthand ways of doing like painting, of doing building. Like if if you went to one of my friends who does, you know, scenic design and miniature building and told him like, you're gonna have to cut out each brick individually, he would
he'd like flip the table.
Seriously,
he would flip the table. But I think that's when you're a hobbyist, and I mean, obviously you've taken, you know, being a hobbyist to, you know, being into a very professional level. But even when you're a hobbyist, you get to have that kind of, and it's almost, it's not like leisure. I mean, to some people it's leisure, and like, you know, it's,
but you don't have like super hard deadlines. Like you have self-imposed deadlines.
But I've found that hobbyists usually make the best stuff. Like hobbyists tend to have more a better result than people who do things for film and TV, because also the film and TV stuff it gets thrown in the trash at the end of the day most of the time. Like either that or it gets auctioned off. So have you run into kind of that, an intersection between, like, you even talked about it, like having to, you know, build stuff for the channel versus like building stuff for yourself? Like, is there an intersection between being a hobbyist and being a professional as far as the builds you choose to take that time with?
Yeah, well, you know, when I have builds like, again, the alchemy shop, where it's small enough that I can actually take the time to cut the bricks out, then I'll do that, because I know with my timeline, I can still kind of in a timely manner get the video out. But I like people to realize when they watch videos on my channel that they're there to provide inspiration and give you ideas. So just because, for example, the tower from this week, just because you see me rolling out the stone pattern doesn't mean you have to do that, right? You can make it out of foam and then add your bricks in afterwards. So just going that way.
Personally come to their houses and oversee their projects.
So, but, you know, I get a lot of people that actually message me too, and they're like, how do you deal with like pressure of having to produce this stuff? And
I mean, because it's a lot. It really is.
but even for themselves, because, you know, they're making things for campaigns and you know, they've got too many things going on, and, you know, just one craft at a time. That's it. Because at one point I had like 3 or 4 videos going at once, and that was like the most hectic thing ever. I'll never do that again. And, you know, quality can lack if you do that, right?
Yeah.
So that's the nice thing about the hobbyist crafter is you can surf channels, you can find things that are fun, and, you know, just take your time. And if your buddies are all over you for not having something built in time, then get them over your house and have them help you. That's what I say.
Right. You will be cutting bricks.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so you mentioned you have kids. Does that play into any of this at all? Like, do you have them helping you out at all, or like building things because they come up with ideas?
So my son is into video games, so he's kind of out for now. He's almost 9. He loves his video games. I don't blame him. I used to play them all the time until I started the channel. Now that's out for me. I don't have time. My daughter, she absolutely loves to craft, to paint. She has never touched a doll in her life. So whenever she can paint or craft, or softball is her big thing. My son loves baseball. They'll do that. But yeah, you know, I'll get her down here every now and then. The one thing they hate doing is when I say, and it's usually just my daughter, hey, I need help, you know, with the camera and focusing and getting me going for my shots. She's like, okay, Dad, you know, she's a sweetheart. She'll do it, but I know she doesn't want to be. She'd rather be upstairs watching YouTube or something, you know?
I was going to say, is it sanding? Because sanding is probably the worst part of crafting, of any sort of crafting. I hate sanding.
Yeah, no, I mean, she's, you know, she enjoys what she does down here. And, you know, yeah, she plays with us. You know, I've had a game session with her a couple of times, and my son and my brother will DM every now and then. So yeah, it's fun. I know she'll be more into it when she gets older. That's just how she is. I'm sure she's dying to be on the channel. I'm like, God, you got to wait until you're old enough. I don't even know what it is. 13.
Oh yeah. YouTube has things about if children are in your video. Yeah.
So she's waiting for the day to be on the channel.
They need to do more, but but at least they have that in place. But yeah, speaking of people getting involved, I mean, like, family is one thing, but you also have a Patreon page, which you have fans who I'm sure they have a lot of, you know, put a lot of input into what you do. Clearly they love, you know, what you do enough, you know, to pay you to do it, which that is always so wonderful.
Yeah.
So wonderful to have people help you pay the bills and to help you continue to do the things you love. But how much influence did they have over what you do? Like, do you do polls on there to see what you're going to do next? Or is it more of like a hands-off, like, I'm going to drop a video early for you guys to check out and you know, just enjoy what I build?
So I don't drop videos early for them. I do every once in a while. I asked them once about like it was my 40K build. What should I title this thing? Because I've never played before. So they helped me come up with a title for that. And I just added a new perk on the Coven tier, which is my private Facebook page, where we go on Discord and people hang out with me while I'm crafting at night.
Nice.
So it's cool. It's just like this, and I'm crafting and they're making stuff, and yeah, it's pretty cool. So, and everybody in there, everybody in Patreon in general is amazing. And everybody in the Coven, you get close to some of these people, you know, and it's really awesome. You know, not to really dive too much into this, but I had some pretty terrible thing to happen a couple of months ago with my family. And I told everybody, I said, look, I'm going to be away for a while. And I did. I took like 3 weeks off from crafting. I was off from work for a couple of weeks, and it was amazing. Nobody left Patreon. A couple of people upped their pledge. People were sending me their private phone numbers to call if I needed help with anything, just to talk. And, you know, that really was like an eye opener about how amazing this whole community is, you know, it was really cool. So, yeah.
That's so great to hear. I mean, and, you know, and it reminds you why you do these things. But I mean, you also have created a channel that I think really facilitates community, because obviously tabletop gaming is about community. It's about family. It's about sitting around the table and enjoying each other's company for hours on end.
Yeah.
So, you know, the building is kind of, you know, an extension of that. It's like, you know, you're not like, oh, well, you want to know how to do this, you need to pay me. It's like, no, let me share my knowledge with you, so we can all enjoy this geeky game that we love.
Yeah. And it's amazing too, because they come up with some really awesome ideas, and it's cool just to see what they make and what they're crafting. And it's a cool community.
That is so good. So of all the builds that you've done, we talked about, what your favorites are, but is there a build that you did where you're like, I do not know how to do this, and you really had to like experiment or just like get creative in figuring out how to do a certain part of it? Or
so I tend to overthink things. When I was designing my brick oven, I designed that thing for like over a year. And the website that I was on to, I had this forum, and I was on there like every day asking people questions. And at one point, people were like, stop asking us, build it already, So I tend to like overthink things and really plan things out. So no, not really.
Okay.
Everything, I feel kind of confident when I'm going into it. But that being said, there's been a handful of builds when I'm halfway through it and I'm like, oh no. and I got to like kind of change something around or modify it to make it work or look good,
Right.
Yeah.
What do I do next?
Yeah, seriously.
I backed myself into a corner here.
Yeah.
I think you're the only person that I actually know who is that much of a planner. Most of the people, well, especially in the creative sphere, like, especially when you work in the creative sphere with like actors and, designers and stuff, a lot of the times and I hate this term, but I always use it because it's the term that everybody knows. They're pantsers, not planners. They just do things by the seat of their pants, and they're like, we can do it. So who cares about a plan? But like, you seem to really just like hone in on just getting like all like step A, B, C, D, like, and clearly it shows. Like obviously it's a good method to do, and I know that I should be more of a planner, but
I imagine that's the civil engineering side of your brain. That's
Was that a skill? The question behind the rant is that a skill that you had to hone, or are you just naturally that way? Is that just how your brain is just like?
That's how I am. Yeah. But I'll tell you what makes me have to be that way on the channel is the plans that I produce, right? Because I need to have them again be exactly right for people that are purchasing them.
Yes.
And when I have
can follow along.
But when I have builds on the channel that don't require plans, I'm like, ooh, what do I get to do? And I get to grab things from here and there and just toss things together, and it's nice. It feels good to do that every now and then.
Improvise,
and not plan, and just see what happens. So, well, like the video this past week, the destruction video, there was a little bit of a plan there that I had built before, but just destroying this tower and adding rubble everywhere. Yeah, it was cool.
It seems very cathartic.
That too. Yeah. And that's the picture alone is just like, yes.
Right.
That is a power thumbnail.
Yeah, I thought so.
This is very empowering. I actually, sometimes I'll do that with some of my cosplays. I'm like, all right, I made it really pretty. I know, let's destroy it.
Yeah.
Just because. I know a lot of brides will do that with their wedding dresses too, but that's a whole other thing on Pinterest that like as a whole you can fall down. But I am amazed by your ability to just plan these things and be so organized. I'm jealous, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I'm jealous.
So what's next for you? Like where do you go from here? Like what are your big, I don't know, long-term goals for this?
Yeah. So, I'm right now I'm enjoying everything. My main goal is, everybody subscribe. I'm trying to get the subscriber count up. It's not like so much a numbers thing. Like I want to hit a certain amount of subscribers, but it's nice to see that there's interest in many people out there and that they keep subscribing to the channel. I would like to do some more collaborations. I did one with DM Scotty on my trap video a while ago, and it was a lot of fun. It was cool. It was the first collaboration I did with like another big channel. So that was cool. I like to do a few of those. yeah, I don't know. I got a couple epic builds planned. One coming out, hopefully, I hate to throw a date at it, but maybe July-ish, August. And I got a really cool person that's helping me out with it. I can't say it right now, but I'm super excited. I'm a huge fan of this person's work. So I hope I don't let him down.
I am 100% certain you will not.
Yeah.
So I'm sure
outsider's perspective.
Right. I mean, I'm sure people are, wondering like, I don't really have time to do stuff like this, but I love your stuff. Like, are you interested in doing commissions or anything like that? Is something that has ever appealed to you or?
Yeah. So, I mean, commissions kind of went to the wayside when I started the channel. No real time for it. I've had people ask me to build like the Amityville Horror House, stuff like that for them. And honestly, I'm running out of room on my shelf. So I'm sure it'll become a thing to be able to show something off on the channel and then, sell it or whatever. My Dwarven Burial Chamber series I did with Paladin Woodworking, that was kind of not really a commission, but it was for his Dwarven themed table that he made, which is absolutely amazing. Check it out on Instagram if you haven't seen it. So that whole thing got shipped out to him, but yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to be open to the idea down the road. Right. For sure. I'm going to have to be.
Right. Yeah. Just for the sake of making room. I don't know what that's like.
Yeah. There's a reason I have a virtual background. There's
right.
Yeah. No. And it's interesting. I've heard that from, we had Tristan from Plus One Crafting on a while back. And that's actually how he started his business, was like, he was making all of this terrain and his wife was like, we have no more room for this. Get rid of it. And he's like, and he started his Instagram shop like that week. Cause he's like, well, I got to do something.
I mean, some of these epic builds that I have, those are really hard to part with because again, they take like a month to build. But those are also the ones that take up the most amount of room. So I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, but the haunted house is so great. Like you gotta keep that.
Oh yeah.
That rose window is fantastic.
It's awesome, isn't it? I saw that on that Shifting Land site and I said, this has got to go in this build. So.
Yeah. Could you actually tell me a little bit about the rose window? I haven't seen the video yet, but it's so beautiful. How did you get it's so defined? How did you get that so crisp and beautiful?
Yeah, no, that's straight from Shifting Lands. Gerard Boom designed that. And he has these little stained glass sheets that you can put on the back. And that's what I put there. That's backlit with a tea light. So we're actually, for my next epic build, we're designing a couple more windows for the build itself, which is kind of neat. It's custom. So I'm looking forward to that. Really, I want to talk about it, but I can't. It's so cool.
It just means everyone has to subscribe to your channel and follow you to learn about this. Have you ever had any interest in going beyond the tabletop world and doing other types of crafting projects?
I haven't really thought about it yet. Like, what are you talking about? Like cosplay type of thing, or
no, not necessarily cosplay, but I don't know, this might be getting more into prop building and art department and stuff like that, which obviously, you're not in the film industry, but I mean, I just wondering if there's any other crafting outlets that have interest. I don't even know what they might be.
Not really.
So many people out there that are into train modeling and Christmas villages
things like that, or
Halloween villages, those tiny villages are blowing.
I know. Those are fun. I wouldn't mind giving them a crack maybe at some point, but I think I'm trying to focus mainly on what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
I was gonna say something. I forgot.
What?
I forgot what it was. Where was I going with that? I don't know.
I love tabletop gaming is where you
tabletop gaming. That's it. Yeah, I don't know. I'll cut you off in a minute.
Totally fine. So when you're looking to collaborate with people, obviously you said you have some people reaching out to you, but what are the things that you're looking for when you're like, oh yes, I want to collaborate with that person?
Yeah. So, originally I was like, it would have to be somebody that I would jive with that has the same type of crafting style so that it would blend together. But I don't think that way anymore. I think somebody that's completely opposite would be just as good to really kind of work together to try and bring a craft together.
Yeah.
But there's so many different ways to collaborate. Like the DM Scotty video I did, I literally just built my own build. He built his own, but they had the same theme. It was a trap build video. And then, we had some funny elements in there. If you haven't seen it, watch it. I had this his trap was based on a rat. So I had this little electronic rat with a sign that said, watch DM Scotty's video, bouncing into my craft the whole time. And then mine had all these skulls in it. So he had like a little green screen skull talking to him in the background.
That's so
it's
cool.
just fun. Yeah. Just to kind of collaborate. I just want to have fun when I do something, know, and try hard and have it look good when I'm done, know, but it doesn't even have to be somebody that, crafts, I would love to work. There's so many people out there that, just make things that would be cool to collaborate with, and what those builds might be, I don't know, but that's the only way you learn it and experience new things,
Well, that's a great place to end it, unfortunately. But yeah, so if people want to follow you, maybe want to get in touch with you, maybe if there are some crafters out there that are like, yes, I want to work with you, like, where can people find you?
Yeah. So Facebook or Instagram, I'm always on there checking those out. That'd be a great way to check me out on there. And I try and reply, and I think I'm pretty close to maybe 99%. I reply to everybody's comments on all my videos on YouTube. So you can always shoot me off something there, and we can get in touch that way too.
Yay. So guys, make sure you check out Tabletop WitchCRAFT across all the platforms.
Thank
and
you.
Please support John with all the amazing work that he's doing. And of course, Genevieve, how can people support us?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Lindsay. Oh my God, I really tried.
I know.
If you could please like and subscribe, ring that bell to get notifications every time we upload. We upload every Friday at noon Pacific time. You can count on us to be here with some amazing guests. Again, we also have a Patreon, so go to Culture Slate's website, go to their YouTube channel, subscribe, like there, and then also check out their website, and then check out our Patreon, so we can also pay the bills.
Yay! And if you don't want to necessarily, like, if you missed part of us in YouTube and you got to commute, we're also in podcast form. So check us out on Spotify or your favorite podcast provider. Awesome. Well, John, thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep. And we will see you all next week.
Yes. Bye, guys.